All right, good afternoon, everyone. Again, it's me. Thank you for having us, Adrienne and me, at this 15th IATA Congress. Adrienne and I would like to present highlights and selected experiences from our multi-year renovation project at the Folger Shakespeare Library in Washington, D.C. We will be focusing on conservation and preservation-related points and hope to share some helpful information should you ever need to close for a renovation. We will tell you a bit about the Folger and how we prepared for such a big undertaking in a small institution. We will be touching on key points such as the building, risk management, how to move a collection of 250,000 items, how we plan for sustainable preservation climate, how we kept working on a construction site, and the fun things we didn't expect were accounted for. Henry Clay Folger and his wife, Emily Jordan Folger, established the Folger Shakespeare Library as a gift to the American people after decades of assembling the world's largest collection of Shakespeare materials. The building, designed by the French-born Paul Philip Cray, opened to the public in 1932 on Capitol Hill. In January 2020, the building closed to the public to undergo a major renovation to expand public space, improve accessibility, and enhance the visitor experience. However, not only did the building close for this major construction, but it also closed to staff due to a worldwide pandemic. The Folger's renovated building now includes entrances accessible to all, 2 new exhibition galleries, 82 first folios on permanent display very soon, and a learning lab. In addition, the former exhibition gallery, known as the Great Hall, will be a public multi-use space to meet and relax with a cafe, and rumors are at some point with a bar in it. Other improvements included additional compact shelving in the storage walls, new air handlers for over 50% of the building spaces, fire detection and suppression system updates, repurposing one reading room as a staff workspace, and the creation of new conference rooms available to researchers and staff alike. Long before the renovation started, possible risks to the building and collections during the construction were discussed by a committee, including operations, facilities, conservation and preservation, collections, theater staff, and directors. I was tasked to do the risk management for the collections. And you all know conservators do risk management all the time, just not often on a scale like this one. I had to learn not only to ask the right questions, I had to get used to being comfortable asking often basic questions in a room full of engineers and directors, how to analyze the pros and cons, how to relate consequences while considering budgetary impact and timelines to identify what would be best for the collections and Folger overall. Well, let's get an idea what the construction actually entailed. In this image, you can see that an area the length of a DC street block below the building and plinth was excavated. The Great Hall, our former exhibition gallery, as seen in the image on the left, with historic wooden paneling, historic decorative tile flooring, and historic stucco ceiling, is right above that large excavation. The historic reading room on the right, with its approximately 5 by 8 meter large stained glass window depicting the 7 ages of man, highly decorative wooden ceiling, and several paintings and tapestries, is located next to the Great Hall on the same floor. Both rooms are considered part of the collections. The Folger counts 6 major collection storage areas for its 250,000 collection items. 5 of those storage spaces are 2 and 3 floors underground, and 1 is part of the historic reading room. In 2004, the stationary shelving on the west side in our largest rare material storage space was replaced with compact shelving. 20 years later, we outgrew the added space, and more compact shelving was added on the east side as well. In all these storage areas, ceilings were removed, pipes and ducts exchanged, metal shelving cut down, new fire detection and suppression systems installed, and much more. Could construction work be done without moving the collections? And could the 82 first folios safely be on permanent display? Those were the two major questions we needed to answer. Remember from the slide before, risk is the possibility of something bad happening. We just don't know what that might be and when it might happen. So worst-case scenarios were considered. We focused on 3 categories of disaster. Water, pipes easily burst during a renovation. Fire, hot work was happening in numerous spaces throughout the building. Mechanical damage, drilling, tearing out ceilings and walls next to rare material. I can't stress enough the fact about the enormous amount of dust that is produced during a renovation like this one. And I will say, the construction company assured us that dust would not be a problem. Trust me, it was. The committee went in circles weighing the information given to find a solution which would balance risk and still align with the Folger overall goals and timelines. Where could we control and minimize the risks? Moving 250,000 items is not inexpensive, and the budget mattered greatly. Even moving only half of the collection was not really an option because there was no swing space available to shift things around. After months of analyzing, we concluded that the risk of keeping the collections on site was greater than the risk associated with moving it. Once we made that decision, we needed to prepare for the move. Were items in a condition to be safely packed and moved? How would we inventory everything? What would a transport look like? What type of security was needed to pack, to move, and to transport the collections? What about the climate on the truck? What about roads, routes, and weather? Not all items were in good condition to be packed. Before the move, conservation made as many preservation enclosures as possible. Unfortunately, we ran out of time, also thanks to COVID, and we changed to simpler ways. A quick but sufficient tissue paper wrapper was designed to stabilize and protect fragile bindings. You see that on the very left. In the future, this tissue wrapper will be an indicator that the book needs treatment. While conservation was made housings, our cataloging department barcoded every item in the collection. Yes, the Folger did not have scannable barcodes for the rare items until then, but now we do. 250,000 barcodes were paired with an item in record time. We worked very closely with a moving company to develop safe handling and packing procedures. Books were pulled, sorted, and packed by size. In the future, we will be storing by height and saving storage space and making the books safer on the shelves. Every item was scanned, packed into a box, and transported on specially designed carts. Stacking boxes on pallets was not an option due to the risk of boxes collapsing. We worked with DocuSafe, a disaster preparedness and recovery company, to analyze our procedures and flag weak areas in the processes, including truck routes, weather, and security. With their help, we created an extremely helpful checklist to guide us through this move. Here are a few highlights that I want to point out. The day before every transport, we calculated the temperature settings for the truck using weather forecasts to ensure a stable relative humidity during the transport. Data loggers on the carts helped us to learn if our calculated settings were correct. A GPS tracker allowed Folger staff to follow the truck in real time. Folger staff ensured that boxes and carts were secured, truck doors were sealed, and everything was documented with pictures before the truck could depart. I would also like to touch on the new fire detection and suppression systems which were installed in the storage areas. All storage areas but one had traditional fire detectors and VESTA sensors, which had been installed in 2017. VESTA allows extremely early detection with the opportunity to program it to specific sensitivities and response times. The fire suppression system in all storage areas but one was the halon clean agent, which is recognized as a substance contributing to the depletion of the ozone layer. So the Folger made the decision to replace the existing halon system with NOVAC 1230. Clean agents work best in small and well-sealed spaces. Therefore, NOVAC 1230 was installed as the first line of protection to suppress small fires. Could a fire not be stopped by the clean agent, the second trigger would be a double interlock pre-action system. One unexpected challenge we faced installing the new fire suppression system was that a 46-centimeter clearance to the top of the shelving was required. This meant that a great number of the existing shelving needed to be shortened. However, by adding new compact shelving and storing books by height, we gained 578 meters overall. We are excited to have the two suppression systems in place, offering greater peace of mind in case of a fire. As mentioned before, the Folger owns 82 first folios out of 237, I believe, remaining worldwide. The first folio has always been an attraction to researchers and book collectors. However, the general public is not as familiar with it. The first folio was printed in 1623 and contains 36 of Shakespeare's plays. What is so special about that? It is the first book printed in folio format containing only plays, and most importantly, we would not know half of those plays otherwise. For example, Macbeth or Romeo and Juliet. Folger director Mike Whitmore envisioned having all 82 first folios available to the public on display in the new Folger North Gallery. With this vision, the first folio will be placed on shelves, spine facing out, as shown in this slide. In front of the large case, two first folios will be displayed, opened in a vitrine. There are obvious risks having all 82 of the most valuable items in one case. Environmental conditions, fire, water, security, and light exposure, and the difference between visible storage and permanent display were discussed early on. Visible storage versus permanent display. Environmental and security requirements might be the same for both, but the lighting in an exhibition display is generally very different from a storage environment. We are still working on the final details about lighting the 82 books and their light budgets as well. This large, as you see in the picture, 6.5 meter long and 2 meter high, not yet finished exhibition display case will have its own HVAC system to control temperature and humidity to the same conditions as in other collection storage vaults, and performs at a roughly air exchange rate of 0.5 per day. The case will be outfitted with VESTA detection and the NOVAC 1230 fire suppression system. Access to the case will be extremely restricted. It will take more than one person to access and retrieve a first folio. Did I mention that the first folios will still be available to scholars for research and will be pulled from the case for that purpose? Is it storage or display?
Our renovation included the replacement of most of the air handlers serving collection spaces. Research shows short-term fluctuations are not felt by most composite materials on shelves, so we decided to allow a range for temperature and RH rather than set points. Linden Preservation Services helped us establish 3 climate ranges: permanent storage, temporary storage, and gallery staff and collections use. For our set points, we used the Image Permanence Institute's research about sustainable preservation environments based on dew point. By programming our air handlers to deliver air at a set dew point and within our temperature range, the unit determines what needs to be done about the RH, allowing the air handlers to operate as efficiently as possible, translating into energy savings. Whoop, wrong way. The Folger faced challenges maintaining the building's climate due to some unexpected news we received in April of 2021, when we were told that steam for the reheats in the building would be shut down for 8 months. With rare materials still on site for Folger staff to work on, facilities and conservation immediately decided on climate control options using dehumidifiers and spot coolers until steam came back. Winter showed up with no signs of steam. We swapped dehumidifiers for humidifiers and spot coolers for space heaters. In May 2022, chilled water for the building's cooling coils was cut off, turning our air handlers into fans. We now had dehumidifiers, humidifiers, spot coolers, and space heaters spread throughout the building. This was life until March 2023, when steam and chilled water finally returned. Conservation has a very strong working relationship with facilities. Together, we worked through reasonable climate expectations for current collection spaces based on the equipment available, and agreed to a larger temperature range than usual, creating more options for stable relative humidity. We set an upper cap of 24 degrees Celsius, and we hope to keep the RH between 35 and 65%. Wireless sensors installed in conservation allowed us to see the real-time climate where rare collection items were kept. The remainder of the building was monitored by our PEM2 loggers, which were regularly downloaded until the wireless system was expanded. Conservation and its vaults are usually very well-secured areas. We changed security protocols and kept doors open in the space in order to avoid creating microclimates. Security and facilities personnel were given full access to monitor and maintain the climate control equipment and checked the spaces more frequently. The graph on the slide shows things were not perfect, but fluctuations were short and mostly within the agreed-upon range. From April 2021 to March 2023, the Conservation Lab had 3 dehumidifiers, 3 spot coolers, 3 heaters, and our 3 permanent lab-wide humidifiers in use as needed. Managing all these pieces of equipment designed to do the exact opposite of each other was a juggling act that sometimes failed. The humidifiers and dehumidifiers liked to work against each other. Spot coolers dropped the RH slightly, but that might have been due to how warm they got the space. The large spot cooler in the main lab required 2 glass panes be removed from interior walls, allowing the flexible ducting to cross a hallway, enter another office, and exhaust out a window. Another spot cooler was ducted to an elephant trunk extractor. All this climate control equipment was extremely noisy, in addition to being a trip hazard throughout the lab. Conservators still worked on treatments, had meetings, took Zoom calls, and that doesn't even include the several months' worth of fire alarm testing. Even while we focused on climate and helped move most of our collections off-site, we still managed our normal responsibilities. The remaining materials on-site were waiting for treatment, although this was usually interrupted by considerable lengths of time when we were not allowed on-site due to power, water outages, egress, and other restrictions. Even with the collections being off-site and us not being able to lay eyes or hands on the items, we still managed to plan for future exhibits and gallery spaces, prepare and courier multiple outgoing loans, and put a first folio on exhibit at a local public library. Despite all this craziness, we made time to improve on the foam book wedges that our researchers regularly built into towers. We designed custom book supports in 3 sizes that can be stored flat and weights to use with them that reuse exhibition fabrics. We brought samples of these if anyone wants to see them in person. We also designed new bookends that support the height and width of books in each size range. For more information about our redesigned book display cradles, please see Renate's presentation tomorrow. It's all about that base. And we hired 3 new conservators who all started in October of 2022, I beg your pardon. When spaces are not occupied and HVAC systems are down, bad things can happen. We had multiple instances of water damage, and mold temporarily closed one office. Halfway through the renovation, all the books and bookshelves in the historic reading room were vacuumed and covered. After construction ended, conservation cleaned the decorative woodwork and took down and cleaned the 4 tapestries left on display. None of this was done initially because, as Renate has already mentioned, we were told dust would not be a problem. This, unfortunately, was incorrect. The renovation brought several fun surprises as well. We discovered wallpaper made from 1929 wood blocks during a wall teardown. We learned how to clean a marble statue. And we got to help artist Anke Newman install a beautiful paper and light sculpture. So our takeaways: plan. Plan as much in advance as you can. Give yourself time and simply imagine the unimaginable, like a worldwide pandemic. Communicate, clear and transparent. Make sure the message received is what you meant. Trust others to do their job, but don't trust blindly. Trust yourself as well. You have to convince others that you need to be involved. Make friends. Having a disagreement is much easier with someone who knows and likes you. People will tell you what you want to hear, or that everything is possible, but you know that's not always true. Conservators have a wide knowledge, a great attention to detail, and a good sense of risk. What you know matters in this process. There will be times when you must speak up, even if you are extremely uncomfortable. Don't forget to have fun. Be flexible. Others will try their best as well, but for sure, things will not go according to plan. And if you want to share your experience, 20 minutes are not enough. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much. Any question? One in the center and one over there.
Marlene Husung, Historic Archive of Cologne. Which database do you use to manage the barcodes? So is it Excel or is it someone only for you? And which information are in there?
They're scanned into tin.
Yes, so the barcodes are assigned to each item in our catalog program, which is called Tinned. We originally had Voyager when we started, and we migrated all of it into Tinned during our closure.
But we did have Excel spreadsheets for the move, for example. So we were able to know exactly what was on one truck.
Sorry, you were saying that you have applied barcodes on manuscript. Where exactly did you place them?
On flags.
Question.
All of the barcodes are on flags, which are tucked into the back of the book. They are between the backboard and the back and papers. So nothing is physically stuck to the book.
Just gave Frank a heart attack.
For items that we could not tuck a flag into, they were affixed to a piece of cardstock and had a string tied around them, and that was looped through whatever handy portion of the artifact we could loop it through. That you actually saw that box full of barcodes in that one slide, and those are the ones that are put on objects, not on books.
Hi, Teresa Mesket. I also worked at Moderna Museet in Stockholm, so moves like this are really interesting. You mentioned that you collaborated with a transport company on the logistics of your move, and that's really amazing that you were able to do that. One thing I didn't catch, or maybe you didn't mention it, was the system you had for the receiving end. Once you got everything packed and on the truck, what was your protocol for checking in things, and you know, how far did you go once you were in your new storage area with that move?
So in the beginning, we thought we're going to be on the front end and the back end, but that was cut down really quickly because it was just way too expensive and too much work, and we didn't have enough staff. And it was, remember, we did this right in the beginning of COVID. So we had to trust the moving company to, on the other end, scan the things in right away when they arrived. And we knew exactly where things were. We double-checked. We knew which shelf. We checked. Adrienne and I went to the storage facilities, and it all went very well. And I want to say the storage facilities were climatized.
Sorry, you know I have to ask a question.
Of course.
You're telling us all these wonderful things that happened. You must have stories of things that didn't go right, that something fell or something broke or something got lost. And I know from the collection that there, with your barcoding, just curious, were you able to find missing items, or have you been able to, did you discover further the 7 or so odd objects that I know that were listed as having gone awry or lost or stolen?
What are you looking for, Frank?
Just some more stories, obviously. It's a fond memory of what you guys went through and having gone through it multiple times as well.
Right, may I answer that?
Sure.
I appreciate you asking. So when you give a talk like this, you're still a representative of the institution. There is, of course, things that happen that we would have liked to do differently, but to answer your question, I'm not aware of anything that broke. I can say that. And what else did you ask? Did we find something? No, we did not find those few missing items. We had one day a box appeared, and one of the catalogers, she started, yay, it's it, but it wasn't. So.
I have another question. You mentioned about the permanent display. Can you expand a little bit? How permanent is it? Is it like a plan of 5 years, 10 years? And I know you mentioned about light levels, but are you considering also the length of a book that is open anyway for n numbers of years?
How am I going to answer that? All right. If it was up to me, it would be on invisible storage, where we could turn off the lights, but that was decided is not going to be the case for the moment. So my colleagues, we measured, and we're dimming it down as much as we can. We will start with the lights on during the opening hours at all times, but we will hopefully at some point come to a on and off scenario where we can really cut down on the light budget, because calculations have shown that we can't leave them on too long. So it's a little bit, we have to work with the vision the Folger has, and as conservators, of course, I would like to be, or we all would like to see them in the dark, but Carolina, we will see. We'll tell you more next time.
Thank you.
One other thing that I think wasn't entirely clear, the two first folios that are to be displayed open in the case in front of the vault, those are rotating. Those are not permanently on display. So those will come off, new ones. Pages will be turned. So that's, the actual printing inks are not permanently on display to the same page all of the time.
Okay, thank you. Any other question?